forward to this.
Well, hello and welcome to the Geeknd Live. Your Thursday starts here. I said Thursday. It's just so automatic now because we do these things on a Thursday normally. But I know it's Monday and your Monday starts here. Don't worry, your Thursday has not started yet. In this stream, we usually talk about Star Wars, whatever's going on in the world of Star Wars. But at the moment, the Geeknd Live is known as Obi-Wan Kenobi, as named by Glenn the Geeky Hippie. And that logo there was created by Jones Capone, who I see is in the chat as well. So a nice Geeknd collaboration there. Thank you guys for making it real. So we go through Obi-Wan Kenobi each week. There's not many weeks, is there? 6 in total, 5 in total, because 2 episodes released in a one-er. So this week we are talking about episode 3. I do these streams a little bit later than most in terms of the reviews to give more people a chance to see it, because I know there are spoiler dodgers out there. And if you are still a spoiler dodger for Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 3 or part 3, then you're going to want to leave in the next couple of minutes. But a few hellos first. Hello if you're watching in the future on the replay. Hi to you. And hello if you're in the chat or if you're just watching live right now. Let's do a few hellos to Nikolaki over in London. Hope you're doing well, mate. Glenn the Geeky Hippie, who named Obi-Wan Kenobi. David Milano, who has also contributed to this review show as well. I'll be playing one of his video clips later. And Jane Flakes is here as well. Always good to see you, Jane. Hello, my Sith friends and the Jedi too. Glaze is here too. Hello there to you. Jones Capone, thank you, my friend. Jones Capone also created this graphic, which would definitely put people off watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Fortunately for Disney Plus, it's not a real thing. So thank you, David, anyway, for making that. But I don't think I'll be replacing Ewan McGregor anytime soon. Dave McKay's here as well. Hope you're doing well, mate. Power Droid Girl also. And whoever else is here. Skulking in the shadows. Hope you're doing good. All right, let's bring in our guest who will be joining us to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 3. Remember, spoilers are coming. Alden Diaz. Hi, how are you?
Hello there. You just have to, right? Like this, it's legally obligated that you have to hello there.
I believe it is.
I think that's true. If you don't, you get kicked.
Yes, and you're not the first to do it anyway. I can see 3 hello there's in the live chat. So, you're just joining in. You're just joining in with the hello thereing greeting fun.
I mean, even the Star Wars Celebration opening video of the entire convention ended with a hello there. So it's like that's the season. But yeah, good to see you, man. I feels like it hasn't been that long, but in these times, it feels like a long time.
Yeah, I don't know the last time we spoke. Probably sometime in the past, I guess. But if we were to be more precise, I would guess around Bad Batch we spoke in terms of actually speaking, not messages, doing a stream or whatever. But no, good to see you again. And you've been busy in the Star Wars world. Of course, you have Acto Radio, a Star Wars podcast. All these days, it's a network. It's an empire, baby. You've got a few Star Wars podcasts on the go, right?
Yeah, I'm in the empire business, to reference another show near and dear to both our hearts. Yeah, there's 3 shows on Octo Radio. My show, The Interview Show. There's The Mandatorian Creed, hosted by Tori Fox. And then we also have a Rebels Rewatch show that is ongoing and will be going for a while because we're only in season 1 of that. So lots of stuff.
Man, I've just started watching Rebels for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've just finished season 1, which very spoiler coming now if you haven't seen any of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which very much confused me because a week before seeing the Grand Inquisitor die in Kenobi, I'd already seen him die just a week previously in Rebels, and I was very confused. I hadn't had time to let the fact he had just died in Rebels digest before I saw him die again. Apparently die. We'll see about that. But okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just getting through Stranger Things, Volume 1, Season 4, Volume 1, and then I'll be hitting Rebels Season 2. Cool. Yeah, well, I've linked to Acto Radio, the Empire business in the video description, so go and check it out. Also, Alden's Twitter's there as well. Regular Star Wars thoughts and feelings and musings from Alden over on Twitter. Before we get into Obi-Wan Kenobi, you kind of You did a little drop there, a little plug that you might have been at Celebration. You were at Celebration. How was Celebration?
Celebration was wonderful. I mean, for Obi-Wan Kenobi, it was especially great because they played the first 2 episodes that Thursday night. It was like expected, unexpected, but it was still. They rolled out the red carpet. Literally, they treated it like a premiere. Everyone was there, everyone, including Vivian Lyra Blair, and it was just a magical time. All the days, they unveiled lots of stuff. We even got non-Star Wars stuff like Willow. The first photo from Indiana Jones 5. So it was just a great weekend seeing everybody. The only thing missing was you.
Hey, I might go to the next one though. It's in London.
It's in London next time. Yeah,
do it. I have actually been to two in London before. So once upon a time when I was at university, I went to Celebration. I have a cap somewhere from it. I don't know, probably about 2000. I don't even want to say when it was now. Probably about 2007. But I also I went there, you know, bought a ticket and what have you. But I got invited there. The last one in London, which was the Rogue One year.
Yeah.
I got invited by Lucasfilm, or at least by the Star Wars show, as one of their reporters. So that was really cool. But you don't get much time to kind of like hang out.
Right.
So I don't know. I imagine I did such a terrible job. They'll never ask me again anyway. But I would quite like to just hang out this time. So it'd be good if you can make it over to London town. See you there in the flesh. Not just you, Alden, others in the chat as well. Maybe we'll do a Geeknd meetup. All right. So I'm glad you went. I'm glad you had a good time. You were therefore at the Obi-Wan Kenobi world premiere for episodes 1 and 2. Don't tread into episode 3 territory just yet. How were those first 2 episodes for you?
Oh, I adored the first 2. I thought that it was brilliant of them to market the show with only half of what the show really is. Because you watch all those trailers, it's footage from the first 3. But there's zero indication, of course, that it was an Obi and Leia story. And being in the room, feeling everybody there with you that loves Star Wars so much, together, have a together experience of accepting this young girl as Leia and realizing how good she is, was just magical. And those first 2, everything up until, you know, the Vader eyes at the end of the second episode was just magical. So I adored. Spoiler alert, I've adored this entire show. But yeah, for those first 2, it was really great.
Have you watched them again in a kind of normal environment? Because sometimes when you're caught up in a moment like that, you know, you're kind of, the enthusiasm is sort of not realistic in a way. You need to kind of watch it in your own time, in your own space, on a smaller screen, less sort of crazy people around you. Have you had that experience of those episodes yet?
Yeah, and you have to. And I completely agree that you have to. Yeah, I still loved them. You even sometimes in those crowd situations, you'll miss dialogue because people are cheering or because you're so in it with your friends that you can't believe what you just saw. But yeah, I've rewatched them since. Rewatching, if you went to Celebration, you haven't watched episode 1 again, there's that prequels pre-roll that plays when you start episode 1 on Disney Plus. It's like a 4-minute recap of the entire prequel trilogy. And we didn't see that. So when I rewatched it again, I was like, oh, this is nice. Not that
it's great. It's so well put together. And that's the thing, you know, the Mandalorian, you can enter the Mandalorian, you know, if you've got Disney Plus, you've never seen anything Star Wars before, you're mostly there because maybe you've got kids who like the Lego stuff, or, you know, maybe you like Marvel. Right. You can watch the Mandalorian and not really, of course, you'll miss out on details, but you can still follow and enjoy the story having not seen any Star Wars movies. I was a bit worried about Obi-Wan Kenobi because how would it appeal to the Mandalorian crowd that are just there for the Mandalorian, don't have that prequel knowledge or maybe even the original film knowledge. But that recap, that edit was so good. And sure, you should still go and watch the prequels in their entirety, but you kind of don't need to now to follow Kenobi.
If for some reason you're, like you said, you're that random like parent that's like, oh, let's try this. My kid really likes Grogu. The kid will get the idea of the fallen master, the fallen apprentice, but promise me you'll train the boy, the forbidden romance. Like I'm watching it like check, and check. All right. Like it was kind of perfect. So yeah, I think that everybody was set up in a great way. And for those of us that did grow up on those movies, seeing you in again, it's just been surreal. And Hayden. So
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, well, I think we're going to see. I guess we're going to see more of Hayden. I mean, he was pretty front and center in terms of the promotion for the series, along with you, and so I imagine there's going to be a lot more to come from him. All right, let's get into episode 3. So, this was mostly set on Mapuso, right? Which looked a lot like Joshua Tree, California to me. I was only there a couple of months ago, to be honest. And I also saw Dave Milano referencing that, who is a Los Angeles native. So this is like a mining planet that's crawling with Imperial troops, and it's where Obi-Wan and Leia. It still sounds weird saying that Obi-Wan and Leia are waiting to meet with their rescuer. And it becomes clear that this isn't going to be a simple drop-off of Leia to Alderaan, which Alden initially troubled me because, I mean, Vivian Lyra Blair is excellent. And whilst I don't think young Leia is going to be the next Grogu, I still enjoyed her contribution to those first 2 episodes. I thought it was a great device to get Obi-Wan off planets, to get him using the Force again. But I was kind of hoping she would then be on her merry Alderaan way. He would drop her off this episode, and that would be the end of it. It soon dawned on me that no, we're probably I'm going to say stuck with her for now, stuck with her for the series, not just this 3rd episode.
Yeah.
But by the end of this episode, my feelings towards her longevity in this series have changed, I have to say, because some of those quieter moments between the two, the conversations are really lovely. And for all Obi-Wan's reluctantness, grumpiness for how far he's fallen from his Jedi pride and prime, like the way he described the Force to Leia, that's a series standout potentially now in terms of dialogue. Maybe a Star Wars standout in terms of dialogue. I agree. It's so much so I can't remember how he described it. Something about the light. When you're scared of the dark and you turn the light on, you feel safe. That's kind of to paraphrase, right?
Right. And it's amazing because when she says, "What does it feel like?" You're there. If you are a lifelong Star Wars fan, you know that this is the character that gives the definitive explanation of the Force in New Hope. So you're almost wondering, like, is he gonna do like an early version? Like he hasn't quite worked it out yet. What is he gonna say that's new but familiar? And that simple version, especially for kids, because there might be a kid out there that is 10 years old, just like Vivian is, and just like the character is, and think like, oh, that's me. Like I could be that little princess. And for him to say, like, have you ever been afraid of the dark, was so simple and so good. And like you said, their conversations throughout the episode, you knew her, didn't you? My real mom. Are you my real father? That whole conversation just broke my heart in the way that they relate to each other. Because you don't think about the Jedi as like an adopted family until he really says it that way.
No, she can stay now. I'm sold. But and to be honest, I'm not worried about potential plot holes. I feel like wait until the 6 episodes are done and then worry. So far, he's not been named as Obi-Wan to her. I know Indria Varma's character says it around her, but I don't think he hears. He is just Ben to her, right? So I know a lot of people are worried about how does this make sense? How does she not remember him when she's sending the famous, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi message in A New Hope? So I'm not particularly worried about that. And something else.
The thing is that do we know that she doesn't? Like, I don't necessarily see that as breaking to me. I think that it makes the message better almost because the message is official. It's on behalf of Bail. It's an official thing. It's not meant to be personal. Of course, it was meant to be inside of R2 as this courier droid to get the message. Like in my mind, it makes the message better because it's help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. And then the subtext is, and I know what you can do. And it's like, just like my father does, like we know personally. And I think it's made a lot of little things better. Like her naming her son, Ben, is now really great. And there's also that moment in New Hope that people have talked about for years when she goes, Ben Kenobi. And like she reacts to Luke saying it, like I'm here with Ben Kenobi, and she reacts. It's like, oh, now we know why she would react that way. Like her childhood hero showed up, which is really cool.
No, I think we need to let the 6 episodes drop and then see how it all connects. But yeah, I'm not worried about that, to be honest. And as you said, the naming of her son as Ben just feels more relevant and right, and it feels more now.
Feels good.
I have to say. So yeah, that's been a turning point in my mind. I was never against it. I made a video about the Vivian Lyra Blair. I think she's great, and there's so many beats and mannerisms, and the attitude is just young Leia. It's how she should be. So yeah, now I mean it's clear she's going to be there throughout the series, and I'm there for it as well. So we had a few introductions. A new character that we knew was going to be popping up at some point, Indria Varma's character. I have to say was a welcome addition. Did you enjoy her presence, Alden?
I did. I liked it a lot, and I enjoyed the twist of her being. And it wasn't so easy as I'm pretending to be an Imperial. You get in dialogue later, she's like, "Oh, I was like, so like this uniform probably does belong to her." Like, but she says, "I joined up when I thought the Empire was good. I realized what was the truth, and I loved her characterization. I like seeing someone who's not a Force user but is out there doing their part, because that's part of Star Wars fandom, right? Is like." It was only a 19-year uncontested reign before the Battle of Yavin, and they managed to make everyone forget about the Jedi. And lots of canon has gone into ironing that out, propaganda stuff and things like that. But it's nice to see someone who's like, it's been 10 years and we didn't forget, and we're still helping, and we've got this network. And it was a great addition, I think, to the story.
Yeah, a great addition, a welcome addition, and you kind of knew actually well, for me, when she appeared in that scene, that she was going to be the contact. But leading up to the series, I was sold on her being genuine Imperial based, and that was based actually on leaked set photos of her in Imperial officer uniform, which of course, as you said, she was, but she saw the light. So anyway, we knew she was in the pre-announced cast list. We knew about that. We didn't know that Zach Braff would be making a cameo, did we?
No, I never heard that at all. And got a decent amount of screen time or voice time for this performance as Freck.
It's kind of like an alien mole, right?
He's a big mole man, and he's now everyone's most hated Star Wars character in a long time. He's already made it into meme infamy as being sort of, I mean, Star Wars always reflects the times, right? You know, I'm here in the US and you're from the UK, and we both have had political situations in both of those countries lately where sometimes you see someone and you're like, how do you buy into this? And Freck is that guy, where you could tell like he thinks he's friendly and great, but what he believes in is terrible.
Yeah, but I understand the hate, and I think it's light-hearted hate, as much as the internet can do that anyway. But for me, it was when Star Wars does goofy, it can work, and for me, this was so goofy, it circled back round to being actually good. It worked for me.
Like, especially when he's like got a couple of strays, so he's trying to rat them out to the trooper, and his little mole mouth is all moving. I love that Star, and you've interviewed so many actors that have been part of the creature performances and things like that, where so much goes into the body and head of this guy who's just gonna get knocked out 10 minutes later. They never cheapen any of their characters, even the dumb ones.
Yeah, and it was a great Seth Rogen impression as well from Zach Braff. So
you could have made me believe it was Seth. I've never heard Zach Braff do a performance like that, so it was interesting.
So let's. I can see some discussion in the chat, which I'm going to come over to in a moment. There's some Vader chat in the chat. He popped up, and the funny thing, hilarious thing, Alden. Right before I saw this episode, I dared to go on Twitter, which was a half asleep mistake when I first woke up, and I saw a tweet from you, but I wasn't worried because I know you're a man of dignity, and you will at least wait a couple of hours before you start firing off spoiler-filled tweets. I knew that it would be safe, and it was something along the lines of, wow, that was possibly one of the scariest Star Wars Star Wars I've ever
Right.
seen. There was some pretty scary, and I thought, well, yeah, but Alden's a scaredy cat. Everything scares Alden.
That's true.
This ain't gonna be scary. But no, Vader arriving in the town in the dark, perhaps a bit too dark at times for the duel, but we'll come on to that in a moment. That was chilling. That was chilling. Even the Inquisitors are chilled by his presence. And I have to say, the snapping of the kid's neck was too much.
It was
personally, it's too much.
Legitimately like brutal, and it's the kind of thing where I guess like we're on streaming, so we don't need to worry. We don't need to care. Like you couldn't do that on Disney Channel, but on Disney Plus, we could do whatever we want. And yeah, it was really interesting because much has been made over the past few years of the Rogue One Vader scene as being this like horrific moment, and it is. But what I've come around to in the week since this episode came out is that Rogue One Vader is Vader at work. He has no personal quarrel with anyone in that hallway. It's business. They're just barriers to him. This is extremely personal. And to me, that makes it scarier because you get that moment where he's walking and we know it's Hayden, and Hayden does that beat where the music cuts and he kind of turns, and you can tell it's that a presence I've not felt since. It's that moment. And that's when he's like, okay, townsfolk are going to die until you come out. And that to me is really scary, where it's like, it's just part of pettiness. It's just petty.
Yeah. At first it can seem almost pointless killing, and it is pointless killing, but at the same time he is trying to draw Obi-Wan out. I didn't really I think you do know it's Hayden. Dave Prowse was a big dude, but I didn't really notice the height too much. I can see a few comments about the height. Glenn the Geeky Hippie, Vader was too small in episode 3. It really seemed like Hayden in the costume, not somebody the size of Dave Prowse. I mean, that's true. That's just factually true.
Yeah. He's just not as big as David Prowse. Yeah.
No, not many were. In my head canon, I excuse Vader's height in this by his suit evolving over time and him adding artificial height over time to counteract diminishing physical activity and to impose more fear. To be honest, I didn't really notice the too much of a height difference, but yeah, at the same time, you can tell it's Hayden.
Yeah, it is a different sort of thing where Hayden, because David Prowse at the time there were no prequels, and David Prowse was playing Vader as this big Terminator-esque thing. I don't even think it was clear that he was more machine than man until later on. So Hayden is playing burnt Anakin Skywalker as Vader. Like he gets to build on his performance from 2 and 3. And yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's like his legs are robotic legs, so maybe there is height variation throughout his career as the Dark Lord.
Yeah, but no, a welcome return, and I know there's a lot of interesting. I haven't seen much talk about it in the chat, but I know there's been a bit of talk on the internet. The duel, of which is really just the appetizer, we're led to believe, has classic Star Wars divided opinion. For some, it was perfect and was a great warm-up, literally, for Obi-Wan anyway. For others, it seemed a bit like a fan film, and the action was a little bit the choreography was a little bit kind of jarring for some. I saw. How did it land with you? It's a big moment.
It's a huge moment, and I think that it sort of is twofold for me, where emotionally I think it just rocked the house. I thought that it was, the dialogue choices were few because Vader's not going to sit there having a conversation, but very effective. I am what you made me. Now you will suffer, Obi-Wan, before he drags him into the fire, which I thought was a fantastic choice to end this round. Because Vader is that guy. I mean, his boss is Palpatine. Like, the dark side is petty. He's going to spend 10 years thinking, if I ever see him again, I'm going to burn him, and we'll see how he likes it. The choreography and for me, it was mostly setting. Like, I think that Mapuzo is fine, and I love the metaphor of Mapuzo, like Obi-Wan saying there used to be families here, there used to be fields, and now it's all trash. Like, I get it, but I just think maybe their location for their fight needed a little bit more, like something visually interesting, like instead of it just being like the backyard of this town.
It was very dark as well.
Yeah,
Apart from the
very
lightsabers.
dark. Yeah, very dark, and it's sort of just like it's the back of the town. Like it's something. It just didn't feel as grand. But I also think that it's jarring on purpose, which I really like, because Obi-Wan runs 3 different times in the fight without clashing sabers, and I think it's supposed to, and I think effectively for me anyway, it's supposed to make you feel disoriented, and he doesn't want to do this. It sort of feels like the difference between Cloud City Luke versus Vader and Death Star Luke versus Vader, where one of them is Vader not trying. Vader in this fight similarly only uses one hand the entire time. To me, this is Obi-Wan like getting his, his SHIT rocked so he can feel like he's back in the game. This was an important first step, I thought.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It did. Yeah, we have to remember it's most likely a first step, but I think emotionally it did nail it. And that's interesting. Perhaps it was intentionally supposed to be jarring for you, and disorientated is something I felt during it. And it's something I haven't had my second viewing yet, but it's something I definitely need to sort of form my full opinion on. But I think with this series in general, I understand why, we're dealing with characters that are so beloved and storylines that are so beloved. We are really dealing with plot lines that feed into the very original Star Wars film. I understand why people might be jumping the gun in terms of what we're seeing right now means, but they are jumping the gun. I think we have to reserve judgment with this season. We have to wait till all 6 episodes are out. And Obi-Wan is going to have that major reconnection with the Force. He is going to get closer to the Obi-Wan Luke meets in A New Hope. We are going to get there. And this final duel, he's not going to lose. Yeah. He's not going to lose. He's going to get away, obviously, but he is not going to lose that duel. He is going to return to being more like the Obi-Wan that we know from the prequels, but equally bridging towards Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan as well. So I think in a lot of ways, with how much Leia will find out about Ben,
right,
and other elements of this series, because at the end of each episode, even though we know what's going to happen to all of these characters ultimately, at the end of each episode, I'm still excited and unsure of what's coming next.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big testaments to how well it's being made. And any prequel material, that's the challenge, right? Whether it's Star Wars or Marvel, whatever, where it's all about dramatic tension. When people say, "Oh, I know what happens, so there's no stakes," it's like, well, I just fundamentally disagree with that, because struggling is stakes. How someone changes the stakes. I mean, I referenced Breaking Bad earlier. You and I both love that universe. They've done now for the past few years a show that's all prequel with Better Call Saul. And I think it's one of the best shows on TV, because it's just about how the characters change and get there. And need I remind everybody, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a character who dies in his first appearance ever. Everything with Obi-Wan is prequel, except his ghost appearances in 5 and 6. So it's important to put that in perspective and to acknowledge like how is just as important sometimes. And if you can make someone at the end of 3, at the end of this one, Reva corners little Leia, and if you can make me go, oh no, like that's powerful, because I do know that she's gonna be fine logically. So it's good acting, good directing, can make you forget.
No, I think so. Yeah, and there's a good point. Before the prequels, we probably spent just as much time with dead Obi-Wan as we did with alive and well Obi-Wan. Yeah, no, overall, I feel mostly like I'm eating pretty well with this series. And in a lot of ways, I'm reserving judgment till it's all out there. I can nitpick, the internet nitpicks. That's what we do. The Leia chase scenes, that's probably a classic nit to pick in terms of this series so far. 2 of those, they were a little bit cringy for me. Some of the action, yeah, in some ways, maybe this duel was jarring. I kind of agree in some ways, but I agree with you on the perhaps intentions of it as well. And I'm going to, again, reserve judgment till we get to that final duel. But it does have that interesting contrast of sometimes feeling like a big movie on a small screen to then feeling like it really is a TV, like old TV serial, and I think that's the volume. I think the volume is showing its limitations at times in this series, perhaps more than ever? Or are we just becoming so attuned to it visually now that we're starting to see some of the cracks? And that's something that I'm really looking forward to Andor about. Andor, we know they've been on location all over the UK, and just looking from that trailer, it really does look like a movie.
Yeah, the Andor trailer is stunning and gorgeous, and I think there is that difference. And it's interesting that you say, is it the limitations of the volume? And I'm not saying you're wrong, because it could be.
I often am, usually am, in fact.
Jamie Stangram, he's often wrong. But it's because for the jump from Mandalorian season 1 to 2 to Book of Boba Fett, I thought was astronomical. Like by the time you get to Book of Boba Fett and you see all of Mos Espa and the Rancor and everything, I was like, wow, we've come such a long way from Werner Herzog's Office, being a volume set. The thing I think happens with Mapuzo and this Vader Kenobi fight, it's almost placement, because Mapuzo, like Tython, where Boba Fett debuts, that they shot that in Simi Valley in California. I think it's about the practical sets, the locations clashing with the volume, because Daiyu, the city planet from episode 2 of Obi-Wan, I think is gorgeous and it looks great, and that's volume, and we know it's volume because Daiyu doesn't exist. And I think that looks awesome. Then we get to Joshua Tree, and it's sort of like because it's real. Like it's almost like a pick one. Like I feel like the shows would do well to pick one going forward.
That's a good point, an interesting point, because Andor initially, because they have done studio work, of course, at Pinewood.
Yeah.
And initially they said in one of those first sizzle reels for Andor, or it was from someone involved. It was legit information. They were building a volume at Pinewood for Andor, basically, and obviously for whatever else. And I believe Ant-Man's using the volume that they have ended up building. But then I read somewhere that they ended up not using the volume for Andor. So it might be for that reason that they have decided, no, it is one or the other, because it's very location heavy, Andor, and using the sets they use for the sequels, the same stages anyway, at least at Pinewood. So yeah, I'm going to pop to the chat to get some comments, then come back to Alden for some final thoughts on this episode, and maybe give it a little score out of 10, maybe a big score out of 10. We'll see. I'll start with this from Jones Capone. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Anyone else think someone is hiding inside that lifter droid, Wrecker perhaps? I don't know, but I was really ready for that lifter droid to wreak havoc on those stormtroopers. He was ready to unleash fury.
I love Ned B. I think he's so cool. I love the whole idea. Like, it's a classic thing, of course, like actions speak louder than words. Like, that's a thing that, probably you only hearing that for the first time if you're a small child. But to show that he is ready for action at any time, and like Ned B knowing that other people know that loader droids can't speak, and using that to his advantage of like playing dumb is great.
Yeah, no, it's a great droid addition. And I agree, actions do speak louder than words. And again, that's what makes Vader so great. A freck off from Seth there.
Yeah.
A little call back there to our chat about the alien mole. Glaze is smiling. I'm glad you're happy. North Dwarf, not going to get into the Johnny Depp trial. To be honest, I haven't been following it much. I'm juggling. I'm spinning plates at the moment more than ever, and I'm just a mere human man. I'm struggling. Multitasking is not my strong point, so taking in the Johnny Depp trial is just not on my radar at the moment. Jane Flake says Vader was unhinged, lacking the control over later Vader. Power Joy Girl says, I thought Hayden did brilliantly, and I noticed his physicality and anakinisms. And Alden, you referenced that as well. Darth, Hayden, Glenn the Geeky Hippie. Speaking of the Duel, I finally watched the first episode of Visions. Pretty freaking cool. Finally, yeah. It's been a while, Glenn, but welcome. James Carmichael met Prowse in London years ago. Absolute gentleman. Glad you had a good experience. I did too. He wasn't in the best of health, so he wasn't 100%, but he was a gentleman, I have to say. That when I got to spend some time with him too. James Flake says Obi-Wan looking weak and feeble sets it up for him to refine his Jedi faith and be healed by Leia. Seth says Qui-Gon will train Obi-Wan to be the Obi-Wan we know from Ep 4 and Rebels. Yeah, Qui-Gon's showing up. They've literally they've been hinting at it since
every
the
episode so far.
And the more Liam Neeson denies it, the more we know it's happening.
Well, what's great about his denial is the specific wording of I would rather do a film than TV, because it's like, dude, you were in Clone Wars. Like, you were in Clone Wars. Like, it's not like some other TV show, which he also has done. Yeah, it's Chekhov's Qui-Gon, right? Where every episode he's tried a different method to reach out to him. The second episode had the best one where he's like, if I ever needed some guidance, now's the time. Like, hello, like just like cell phone ringing him.
More like hello to you, Alden. Did you release a little naughty word on my squeaky clean stream?
Oh, I spelled a swear.
I
spelled a swear.
I'll let you off. Dave Milano says all new Star Wars will inevitably be a bit like a fan film because A, they're being made largely by fans, and B, the Star Wars fan films have covered a lot of territory over the past 20 plus years, and some of them look really good. Brad Vollmer says the critiques of the choreography are new and sound insane to me. While I would agree that the setting seemed off initially, it made sense once the ground was ignited, for me at least. I've seen a few people. What's your take on Alden? Everybody, what's your take on him? No, Alden, what's your take on why Vader didn't go through? Did he let Obi-Wan escape? Is he afraid of fire? Because obviously he had a bit of a run-in with fire, but then he's chosen to base himself on a very fiery planet. So I know a few people thought, like, why didn't he just go through the fire and stop Obi-Wan escaping? What was your take on that?
I think that it is a classic Sith thing where, in the same way that, Palpatine, you can make the argument watching the prequels, like, you had so many opportunities to kill X person. You had so many opportunities to do this. I think that Vader, in a classic Sith dark side fashion, as the metaphor, like George Lucas saying, teaches lessons to 12-year-olds. I think that Vader is too in it for his own good. And I think that he realizes, if I walk through this flame and I just hack at him and he dies, it's over. And I don't think he wants it to be over. I think he likes that he has now terrified him and burned him, and he's going to savor this like a horror movie.
He says your pain is just the beginning. He stops burning him because he has plans for
I really do
he?
think that he's like, let them run. It'll be even better when I catch him because then I can kill all his friends too. I think that Vader definitely has a little bit of a power trip going on right now, and it will be his downfall, as we know.
Jorge, hello to you. It has been a while. Hope you're doing well, mate. And Padroy Girl adds to that point, Vader was toying with him. He is evil after all. Jane Flake says Vader is never evil. He's heartbroken and lost. The poor boy just needs a force hug. Right. I'm just
also worth noting,
yes,
real quick, just before we get to another comment, I just remembered in that small indie movie, A New Hope, it's Vader that lets the Falcon leave. I think that Vader, he's also a tactician because he is still General Skywalker in there deep down. And so it might be hey, he has friends that just shot one of my troopers. Let's let them go. And let me now kill them all and figure out who else, kill Tala and Ned B. And so it could be that too.
Yeah, it's just a big tease, really. His old Darth Dave McKay makes a point. Liam is going to be in Tales of the Jedi, which is television as well. So Liam's showing up. Question from Jorge. When do you all think the Grand Inquisitor will come back? The finale, maybe. Will he come back? There is a theory that perhaps this was actually a different Grand Inquisitor to the one we meet in Rebels. I don't think I buy that personally. What do you think, Alden?
Yeah, I don't buy the different Inquisitor theory. It's him. I think it's one of those things where it's twofold. For people that haven't watched Rebels, when he does show back up in this show, it'll be a great shock. For those of us that have watched Rebels, it's when is he coming back? Like, because we just saw Fennec Shan get rebuilt, and survive a shot to the midsection. It's a stab. He's also an alien, so they can always write it away. Like, he's an alien. He has minor healing, like Wolverine. Like, who knows what they'll do? But I think that, not to say that Reva will have a horrible fate for sure, but she's not in later timeline stuff, and he is. So
She's getting a horrible fate. And
Yeah.
somebody on the internet said, so it must be true. In fact, it was somebody on the stream a few weeks ago said that the species of the Grand Inquisitor has 2 stomachs, so he's fine.
Oh, the Powans, the Uta
Someone on the
Powans.
internet. I don't believe they're part of the Lucasfilm story group, so we can't take it as gospel. But
Jamie Stangroom has 2 stomachs. It's canon now.
Yeah. Oh man, if only all the curry I could consume. 1 stomach's just not enough. Okay, I'm just going down a bit to the bottom. If you've got something desperate that you need to tell me, copy and paste it back in, please, because we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. Anders says maybe Vader wants Obi-Wan to get back in tune with the Force, so it's a fair fight. Vader's mind works that way, I think. He was probably disappointed with, like, Obi-Wan says, what have you become? To Darth, but Darth's probably thinking the same thing about Obi-Wan, and he says it, the years have not been kind to you.
Yeah, it made you weak. Yeah, and I will say, just a quick note on Vader. I didn't realize watching it that it was Reese Beecher voice and not actually James Earl Jones. It is perfect. And I guess Vader is the character where you can do that more and get away with it because he does have a robotic voice. But yeah, like I know that people say, "Oh, Luke in Book of Boba Fett sounds a little bit too emotionless." For this character, I thought he was fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like James Earl Jones, but it doesn't sound like 90-something-year-old James Earl Jones. It sounds like, he is in his prime as Vader is. Yeah, no, it works really well. That technology. Dave Milano wants to know if Reva will die or be redeemed. I mean, there's definitely going to be more unfolding of Reva's backstory. We're led to believe it was her in that Order 66 flashback. So I can't see a redemption. I think it's going to be a sticky end, as you alluded to earlier.
Yeah,
Alden. I think there's more story to tell in terms of a backstory.
Yeah, I 100% think that there's personal reasons why she's dead set on this. Maybe as a child, she saw Anakin killing people in the temple. We'll get more of that temple stuff. Maybe she saw the message of Obi-Wan telling the grown-ups not to come back to the temple, which is, reason for vengeance. So I think there's a lot going on with her. I do think that unfortunately she'll probably die, and unfortunately it'll probably be at her boss's hands, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, she'll get a comic series, though. Back in time. Right, Alden, let's get your final thoughts on episode 3. Scores out of 10 in the chat. Let me know your scores out of 10 as well. Alden, here we go.
I love episode 3. I think it's wonderful. I think that this show has proven ultimately so far to be sort of episode 3.5. I think it's hilarious that they'll say, we're done with the Skywalker saga. And then they'll give you this show, which is blatantly Skywalker saga on multiple levels. I think that's great. I'm eating it up. I'm going to give this episode, if I have to give it a number, like a 9 out of 10. I loved it. Thought it was amazing. My, small little nitpicks with it are indeed very small. But I think it's wonderful. I think that Ewan McGregor is doing the best work of his Star Wars run. I think that is great.
Yeah, you do have to give a score out of 10, so thank you for obliging. 5 is average. I always remind people, so anything above 5 is above average. I am going with episode 1 is still my favorite episode. This is my second favorite episode. I need a second viewing, but at the moment I'm giving it an 8, possibly an 8.5. I'm not going to play the Kenobi clip that Dave Milano sent me, or the kind of mediocre clip. I am going to play the best clip possible that Dave Milano sent me. Let's play it now.
Hello there.
Obi-Wan, more of that. I do want more of that, and I hope Jones Capone enjoyed his extended cameo with the comment on screen there. I do want more of that. That's the point of this series so far. I mean, I'm just left wanting more each time. So let me get some scores from the chat, and then we're going to say goodbye. Part 3 gets an 8.5 from Glenn the Geeky Hippie. 7.5 out of 12 from Jane Flakes, 9 out of 10 from Clays, same score from Dave McKay, and also Jones Capone gives it a 9-2, 8.75 from Gaz Nottingham, Jorge gives it a 9, a lot of 9s, a 9 from Alden, 9 from Padroy Girl as well, who was entertained, 8 out of 10 from Nikolaki, Brad gives it a 9, we all know, Glenn, you didn't need to tell us that. 8 out of 10 from Caleb. Thrilling episode, but still not enough classic aliens. Still hoping for Dexter Jet to show up in the next episode.
I would love nothing more than a Dexter appearance.
I don't think that one's going to happen.
I don't think it'll happen because I don't know how you could do it organically.
No.
But he is on Lucasfilm's mind because he's in 2 novels this year.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, he's in Brotherhood that just came out, and then he is going to be in the Padawan novel that's about to hit of young Obi-Wan.
I was under the impression Brotherhood was about the Brotherhood of Obi-Wan and Anakin, but actually you're telling me it's the Brotherhood of Obi-Wan and Dexter, right?
That's the true meaning.
I'm going to start reading books. That one particularly. Dan Milano 7.5, and it's a 10 out of 10 from Valmont. Loving the series. Good. We're all happy. It seems so. That's good. It doesn't always happen in this fandom. We will talk more next week. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Alden, for coming again from Acto Radio, a Star Wars Empire.
Thank you, my friend.
Essentially, link in the description to go and check out Alden's work. Are you covering the Obi-Wan episodes each week on the podcast?
Yes, we did 1, 2, and 3 as a mega episode because I was traveling. Then I came back and it was a whole thing. But then 4, 5, 6 will be their own, so you can look forward to those.
Cool. Already, I'm mate, of course. I mean, I will forget as soon as I click end broadcast. I'll forget. You'll be dead to me once again. And then you're reborn every time there's a new Star Wars. No, you're constantly on my mind, Alden.
Is that better or worse?
In all the ways. So I'll leave that with you. You can decide whether that's a good thing or not. No, I love you, baby. I love you all, in fact. So next week, I think we'll be back to the usual 9 p.m. BST. British summertime, but I'll communicate that with you nearer the time, everyone. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Alden, for joining. And you know what we've got to do now? We've got to start waving. So I'm going to click end broadcast. There's always a lag and it gets awkward. So just keep waving until the broadcast really does end. I'm clicking end broadcast now. Goodbye, everybody. Keep waving.
Bye.
Keep waving.
Star Wars salutes.
Wait, I haven't clicked it. So you're going to keep waving more.